Hello everyone, and welcome to this first look video. It is finally here. This is the iniSimulations A300-600F for X-Plane 11. So I have literally just downloaded the plane and arrived at LAX here. As I said, I have literally just loaded up. So this is a full-on first look at the A300. We're going to be going through this together. We're going to be seeing everything together, and you can get your impressions and I'll share my impressions and we will go from there. This is one of the default liveries that comes with the plane. The other one is the Airbus house livery. I really like it. It's really clean and very nice, and I like the tail as well. I have a few stutters. I am almost certain that that is just X-Plane being X-Plane, as I am not running on Vulkan. We will be doing a full review of this plane, so do expect my comments about that once the review comes out. But this is just a first look, so I'm not going to come to any major conclusions about performance or anything like that at this point. So, first thing I noticed when I loaded up the plane was this gear. It looks so great. The textures are done really well. This looks like real metal. Like, come on. The way that the grooves are put in looks amazing as well. And the whole thing just has so much life. You know, I feel like gear is sometimes overlooked because it's such a minor thing. But it also takes so much time to do that sometimes developers get lazy and they just don't do it. But INI has not done that here, and they have taken plenty of time to make the gear look as great as it can, and the work has certainly paid off. All the metal on this plane just looks incredible, and there is a ton of metal, of course, but I'm speaking specifically about the bare metal. Like, look at this engine as well. This looks really great, and it looks like it's worn too. I like how there's this new look, but there's also this older look that they've added to the plane, and it's not really overdone. See, I feel like a lot of developers will overdo weathering that comes from older planes, and INI has certainly not done that with their textures. Really great wing textures as well, super clean. I like how there's a special attention to detail on the bottom, because I feel like that's something that's also missed as well. Everything else looks really great. And something I also wanted to highlight is that this under view right here, this looks really, really great. The PBR texturing is done so well in the A300. I have been shocked, and this is only my first few minutes with the plane, about how great it looks. So let's hop into the cockpit, what everybody would like to see. Oh, actually, before I do that, one thing to note is that there are two engine variants. This is the GE engine, which I have put on there because I just have a thing for GE engines, but there's also the Pratt & Whitney engine. Anyway, let's hop into the cockpit, shall we? So now we are in the cockpit, and the cockpit is a huge mess. I am in close contact with the INI builds team, especially after the podcast episode that we did, and I've talked to them a lot about the cockpit and the quirks of this airplane, and as I said, we're going to be doing a review of this plane, so you can expect to hear a lot more about that in the review. But the cockpit is like all over the place. I've gone and set a few quick views so that we can get around places faster. But there are some things that you'll notice that come from a regular Airbus. For instance, this right here, the master warning and the master caution, that's kind of like a little teaser of what the Airbus is supposed to be. The whole plane is kind of, it acts a lot like most modern Airbus planes. There's a lot of things that you'll notice that's like, oh, that's where they got the design from. And then there's a lot of stuff that's different. It's kind of mishmashed with the Boeing in a lot of ways. You'll notice that there's fuel knobs right here. That's something that you don't see in Airbus planes these days because it's done completely automatically. And there's also more than 4 levels for the slats and flaps. That is also something that you don't see in Airbus planes these days too much. And then the whole Sorry for that lag spike. The whole overhead panel is just like all over the place as well, but you can also see some things that are inspired, that inspired the newer generation of Airbuses, such as the way that the fuel is done and the way that the electrical power looks, and all stuff like that. But it's a huge overhead panel and there's lots to see, but it's really cool to see the inspiration as well that led to modern Airbus planes, because although Airbus cockpits and Boeing cockpits are different in some ways, there are some similarities as well, and it's cool to see that mishmash. I really like the work on the seats as well. Sometimes you get these really crappily done seats that are just like textures that are thrown on there, and INI has definitely not done that, and I really appreciate that. The seats look really great, and they also look great from behind. The PBR texturing, as I've said already multiple times, is done really well. This looks like it's actual plastic, which I really like. And then the whole cockpit just looks great. It's compared to reference images that I've looked at, the color accuracy is really well done. And it'll also look a little bit different on my screen since I have reshade on, but I'll be sure to turn that off in the review so that you're able to see the colors in their full glory. So this is a quick look at the cockpit. I think it looks really great, and there's also an EFB over here, which I think is done really nicely. One thing that when I was quickly toying around with this right now, is the fact that when you hover over this, you have to hover over the arrow. It just feels a little weird to have these huge buttons right here and you're not just pressing those. See, I'm clicking right now, but it's only when I click here that I'm actually able to switch it to pounds from kilograms. That's also a nice touch, by the way, because a lot of developers just like stick with one. I like how they have pounds and kilograms. Great job for that. But the EFB is done really well. It's super simple, and I really like the organization of it. The ground ops is nice as well. Everything kind of flows into these other more specific categories instead of it just being clunky and you having to go to multiple pages. I really like that. And then you can also switch between the EFB and all of this other additional stuff right here. So there's the flight ops menu, the checklists, which are here. There also are checklists that come with the plane. There's a whole manual. I'm not going to show it just because it's pre-release and there might be some things that change with that. But you have that, and then you have your ground ops, which we looked at, and an ATIS right here. Panel states, so this is if you're a P3D flyer, very similar to that. You can just set your state here. It's also pretty common in flight factor planes as well. So right now we're in cold and dark, of course. And then besides that, then you can just go to general settings, like right here. We're gonna throw this into fast, just so we can get going. Okay, so let's get ready. And I can also show you some additional stuff. Sorry if I'm still not used to the menu completely, but if we go to ground services, we can connect the external power, the loader, the fuel truck, and that's about it for now. So I'm going to be quiet as I turn on the batteries and turn on the ground power, so that you all can hear what the plane sounds like on startup. Really nice sounds. There's a really great video out there that a few people were sending around the INI Builds Discord channel when when they were talking about cockpit sounds, and it sounds exactly like that, and that made me really jittery actually. It sounds really great. So great sound so far. We'll see how it holds up as we continue, because I'm just going to do a quick takeoff and I'm not going to land because I know that I'm going to embarrass myself. So now that we've got everything started, the master caution goes on and you can see all the information here. We're just going to clear that. And yeah, this is what the cockpit looks like when it's alive and what it sounds like too. It sounds great. I love that developers are actually starting to put good sounds in their first aircraft, because that is something that X-Plane has lacked for such a long time, and it really only started improving recently with the release of the Flight Factor A320. But INI has, straight out of the box, put some amazing sounds in here. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard the APU start from the videos that they've released, but we are going to get it started, see if there's any differences. So now that we're back in the cockpit, let's just throw the APU on so that we can hear those sounds. APU stuff is over here. I'm assuming that this is the master switch, so I'm gonna flick that on and then throw the start in, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so it seems like they haven't changed that much with the sounds. It sounds pretty much the same. As with the other sounds, it sounds really great, and I really appreciate that about the plane, because I'm a huge sounds guy. Before I try and attempt to get us out of here, I am going to quickly point to a feature that I think is really, really great. So if we head on over here into the cargo area, you'll notice how the sound of the air changes. I really like that. You'll see this little panel right here, and this controls lights and all that stuff, and it actually works. So if we throw on the cargo lights, you'll notice that it just got brighter in here, which is really cool. And then if we turn that off, then they'll turn off, and then you can turn the entry area lights on, and that's actually this area here. The reason we could see the lights over there is because of that window. And this also looks really great. And then you can turn these on, and those are outside. And then you can also operate the cargo door from in here, which is really cool. So if we go to this one, which you can see better, that you can see the cargo door better. If we switch it to here, we can go to open and go to 70 degrees. Oops. There we go. Gotta keep doing it. Okay, then you can go here to 70 degrees, and they've also modeled 145 degrees, which is available in the actual plane, and this is for larger cargo stuff, so it'll go all the way up there. And that's a really nice touch, and I love how you can control it from in here instead of just in the EFB. That's really nice in my opinion. So let's close it. There we go. Does it keep going? Yeah, it does. Okay. And they've got the sounds too. That's something that's really cool. So yeah, you have these panels in here that you can control things with, which is really awesome as well. So now that we are all set, I'm going to align the IRS, and then we'll push back and do a little departure. We'll start number 2. All right, so everything's coming up. I'm going to assume it's 20% because that's what it usually is at. Again, I could be wrong. That will come in the full review. 17, 18, 19, and 20. Alright, so that's engine 2 started, and it looks like it's stabilizing right now. I'm going to throw us into the outside for this next start, and I'm going to continue to be quiet so that you can just hear what the airplane sounds like. Alright, looks like we're all set here, and as I'm doing some of the remaining cockpit procedures here to get us continuing on for our quick little takeoff, I just want to say that is one of the cleanest starting animations I have ever seen across every sim. Like, that's X-Plane, P3D, FS 2020, everything. It looks really great. So fantastic job to iniBuilds for that starting animation. As we're taxiing to the runway, one thing I want to point out that I have been told numerous times by the developers is that this plane, the engines on it are very, very overpowered. So the plane is going to move very, very quickly when you're on the ground, and when you take off, it apparently has incredible climb performance. If you listen to the podcast, then you'll know a lot more about that, since they went into depth with us about some of the details of the systems and the performance of the aircraft. But the plane is really overpowered, so you're going to find that it moves very, very quickly and gets places very quickly and easily. And I'm noticing that now. That might be because we don't have that much cargo on. I actually didn't bother to look into that. But it does seem overpowered. Alright, now that we're at 2.5 left, we'll slowly slow down. Move on over here, and we can throw on the landing lights and the strobes and throw these into takeoff. Alright, here we go. This is going to be first takeoff in the A300. Right now I can tell you that it actually operates really smoothly on the ground, and it's very responsive, which is nice. I don't know if this is part of the real plane, but the responsiveness to my toe brakes is definitely a lot less than any other aircraft. So maybe that's something that is in the actual plane and they modeled it, or that could be something that they possibly got incorrectly. I guess we'll have to find out once we look into the plane a lot more. So now that we are on the runway, and if I do say so myself, that was a pretty great lineup. We'll just throw it up to 40. I'm assuming that's what you're supposed to do. Wait for it to stabilize. And we'll pretend that this is Toga. Again, I haven't done anything specific here. 80 knots, and we are speeding up like a bullet. 120 and rotate. Alright. Positive rate, the gears coming up. Just turning the volume down a little bit so you can hear me. As I said, the plane seems to really want to climb like a rocket. So we are already at 3,000 feet, and it has been less than a minute since we have taken off, which is actually really crazy. We'll just bring that down a little bit now. My initial thoughts about the sounds, it does sound a little bit weird on takeoff, the revving. Not the revving, but the increase of the throttle. However, the plane does seem to sound a little bit better as we continue to fly, which I like. It sounds a lot better when it's in cruise, or when it's closer to cruising. I would say that if you have some good Boeing knowledge and Airbus knowledge, if you have knowledge of both planes, then you'll be able to get in just fine and get started flying the plane, as I just did. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing, and we will catch you guys in the next video. And look out for the Threshold official review of the INI Builds A300 coming out shortly. Thank you guys.